Today I'm joined by Ben and Ruben with Lokotech, and we're here to talk about their new Scrypt ASIC that's coming out, kind of some updates and news from the last time that we've talked. I've talked to Ben and Ruben for a couple of years now, and I'm super excited to see what you guys have to offer. Ben, Ruben, can you guys just take a second and kind of explain who you are and what you're doing?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's can do. Yeah, go ahead, Ruben.
All right. So I'm Ruben. I'm one of the developers for Lokotech currently. I'm a mathematician, and I'm also the CEO and founder of PowerPool.io, which is one of the companies that is now within the Lokotech umbrella, and it's a mining pool. And the objective is to optimize everything. Same thing as Lokotech. Instead of optimizing the mining, you optimize the hardware. So that's the nice connection there. Yeah, that's me.
Great.
And then my name is Ben McClosic. I'm one of three founders that started this journey back in 2019 when we made a breakthrough for the efficiency of our ASIC. We went out, raised the capital. We brought that to fruition where we actually have gotten rid of all the tech risk. And we'll be bringing this thing to market finally this next year.
Great. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. So elephant in the room. When are we going to see the Hashblade?
The Hashblade, we'll probably start showing them into Q2. I mean, once we get the chips back and start placing them on boards, do some testing before we actually send out the units for delivery. We'll actually have a few units that, you'll probably be able to start to visualize what we're actually accomplishing and putting out. I'd probably say into Q2, beginning of Q3, and then it's going to just start shipping.
Okay.
So, that also goes for both the single and double barrel and the hash blades. They're all going to be shipping in Q3.
It's all coming out around the same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
So now that you have actual ASICs and not just boards, like the Hashblade board, it's all coming out. It's not like this is replacing the other, right? So we will see the Hashblade and be able to use those to retrofit in our GPU rigs or our gaming machines or whatever it might be, kind of like we originally talked about.
Yep.
Yeah.
The objective of the Hashblades is to reach the decentralized customer base, for example, gaming PCs, or the L3s, or the same thing that L3s did, home mining. So it's kind of like a product that is more meant for a house, while the full double tubes are meant for more of a data center style.
Okay. Interesting. So, and I saw on Twitter that you opened batch 2 for pre-orders. What's the difference between batch 1 and batch 2?
Batch 1 was specifically for the hash blades and the full stack. And basically the full stack is just a GPU rig that's filled with hash blades. And that's it. And then they have the hash blades, which you can purchase the hash blades and put it in your own system design. If you want to put it in a PC, or if you want to put it in your own GPU rig that's laying around, currently we're not running, that's fine with us. But then batch 2, this is when we release both the single barrel and double barrel for manufacturing and pre-order.
So are the hash blades available for pre-order in batch 2 as well? Or is that original Hashblade order closed and you can't wait to get those until the final release?
Yeah, that's closed for right now because we kind of allocated the amount of wafers we get back from the foundry is we're kind of allocating them to like a certain number. And then it's the same thing for the single and double barrel. Because really the only thing that limits us is the amount of ASICs that we can produce. Because everything else is support components.
Gotcha. So what's taking so long?
What's taking so long? Well, you never have something go in your favor when developing a tech, especially on silicon. Now, I know that you're probably leaning in towards we did first batch, we closed first batch, and then we had a delay. Well, the delay actually ended up happening because we went back and we were increasing the security of the actual physical ASIC itself, seeing that we don't want any nefarious actors to be able to do anything with it. In addition to that, when it came to about 3 months ago, we had a terrific accident that happened terrible accident that happened to our lead designer's wife that lost her life. And so we had to take a break because he's the one that, work was continuing, but he's the one that audits everything in the design. And of course we had to take that. So nobody can be, unfortunately, we did have probably about, I'd say 4 cancellations, but that's completely understandable. And I mean, even in the exchange notice that we sent out, we told people, hey, we're sorry. We'd like, I mean, this was actually when we had the first, the AI delay, but we also reiterated it when the tragic event happened, that we're still doing to this day. If people have been waiting too long, they can get a full refund plus accrued interest. So I would love to see any other manufacturer hold up to that. We're not giving out coupons. We're not doing any of that stuff. If they don't want it, they don't want it. We'll just self-mine with it. So we're not too worried about it.
You got a point there. If this were to turn around and happen in, Bitmain's neck of the woods, that's a perfect, analogy there. They'd hand out a bunch of coupons and say, here's half off your next order and, tough cookies.
No, we've dealt with that and we're not into that. I mean, actually, we've done this. I've actually done this for 2 clients that got in like day 1 and they were waiting. And this is probably right after, probably about a month ago, they got back to me and they're like, hey, listen, this is just taking too long. I got a small farm. Hey, don't worry. I completely understand. Say it was an 8 Hashblade order. I'll go ahead and refund your money, paid them accrued interest. And I told them, listen, I'll go ahead and hold your spot in line since you've been waiting for this long anyways. We're about treating people right. And that's because that typically doesn't happen in this industry.
No, you're right. It's a pretty cutthroat industry for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're in the West. I mean, we got 365-day warranty. We're going to have advanced RMA for returns. We want people back up and running within 14 days. We don't want to sit there, holding their hand or have them ship their units back and then they don't come see them for months and it's extremely expensive. And another thing we're doing is, I mean, Ruben could get back into the system design and what I've always mentioned about getting out of the daisy chain lottery, from the voltage stacking. And Ruben could jump more into that if we want to get more into detail about the kind of system design of what we're actually accomplishing with our units. So
Sure. Yeah. Ruben, go ahead. I'd love to hear more about this because we talked about this a little bit before, Ben, is just like, classic ASICs, whether it's, an Ice River or Bitmain or, Avalon or any of those, it's like one chip goes out and half the board is gone or the entire board is gone. And then you're waiting, weeks to months to get it back, from repair, or you got to pay expensive repairs for, a third party or a local provider to fix your shit. So how does, what you guys are offering or what you guys are designing differ from that, traditional way of doing things?
So one of the main advantages that we have is that since we're on such high efficiency, we can do different playing around with how we populate the boards and how we power them to be able to achieve a full parallel power delivery to the units. So if one goes down, it's not that it takes out the whole chain, only that one goes down. And that's only something that you can do when you're working with low power chips, such as our case. We talked about our power consumption. Our power consumption per chip is less than a watt. While Bitmains, we'll be talking a couple of watts. So the power design is a lot different when we're talking with that much amount of power. So in our situation, it makes our job a lot easier just because our chip's so much more efficient. And it allows us to do this sort of like design implementations that give us that protection against that sort of daisy chain lottery and silicon lottery.
Well, however, there is good benefits. Despite having the daisy chain lottery and taking down your system, there is benefits to that because you actually have an even more efficient power delivery to the ASIC. So when you have such competition in SHA and stuff, that's exactly why Bitman, uses voltage stacking to move power across the PCBA, is because you squeeze out that extra efficiency, which gives you better power numbers, and then you get to sell it on, watts per terahash. So, it's a very awesome advantage that we have not having to deal with that and go ahead and take the hit and actually, do it in parallel instead.
It gives us a little bit more flexibility on that reliability.
Creates longevity in your product.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and reduces downtime.
Yeah.
Downtime is opportunity cost, and you don't want to be sitting at a repair facility waiting to get your unit back when you're running through a bull run.
No, you're not wrong. I say to my day job all the time, what's your downtime worth? And that's really what it comes down to. So, okay. So in batch 1, you sold everything and now it's closed. How many boards did you have allocated for that batch? Like how many did you pre-sell?
Can't tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood.
We actually just had, we closed or signed an order for 3 to 5 million, or was it 2 to 5 million?
It was actually 5. We think we locked it already at 5.
It was 5 million. Yeah. So and that was all Hashblade.
Wow. And that's all to one company?
Yeah.
Like one farm?
One client.
One client. Okay. So and they're they're focusing on using this for mining, I'm assuming, because we've talked about this chip having capabilities of AI use case in the future. But this specifically this batch 1 order was for blades, not ASICs, and all for mining.
Yeah,
right?
We're not selling any individual ASICs. That might be in the future, but as of now, it's basically under our control. So, and we haven't sold anything for AI because the simulations and the testing that we're doing on the AI front, it's very good, but we definitely want to benchmark it once we have a tangible ASIC in hand. We want to benchmark it in PyTorch, Alex, and all the other programs to make sure that it's going to live up to the snuff and actually do what we want it to do for AI.
How much more efficient are you expecting them to be over something like NVIDIA and the type of chips that are used for the same type of AI workloads now?
So I can tell you about the NVIDIA use case. It's not that we're competing against NVIDIA, because that's something we've been hearing a lot. Like, are you direct competitors to NVIDIA? And that's not really the case, because NVIDIA makes GPUs with a lot of memory. We're talking GPUs with 100 gigs of memory that are used for large language models. And that's not really what the use case of these chips are. We're not going in for that ChatGPT functionality. We're going in for more edge case functionality. For example, you have your AI on the edge, which is what's being mostly being shown around in like new technologies. So you have your core AI, which is your ChatGPTs, your all that happens in a data center. But then you have your AI that happens maybe within your TV. That's a chip inside that handles the upscaling of your image, so you get to 8K even if the original image is not 8K. So that's what the chip it compares to, not really a full scale AI application like large language models, but the edge of AI.
Okay.
And there's other companies. Ben might be able to tell you the name. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but those are the ones we're competing against, where they have this sort of chips which sit in PCIe slots on systems, or they're indirectly embedded into the system, and they offload a lot of the tasks towards them. And in those markets, we're very, very competitive. I wouldn't be able to tell exactly how many X's were over the current edge, but it's significant enough for us to be able to pursue that space and make it a significant player in the industry of AI.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's more about the localization of compute rather than sending data out for the compute. You don't have to send it. You can do. And Fred and I actually talked to him about this at a conference, but we are very big believers in local compute, and they've actually made like an immersion cooled hardware system that they actually see businesses having on site and filling it up with hardware to do exactly what our ASIC would be very good at doing.
So it sounds similar to like an Intel NPU, where the blurry backgrounds in Teams chats or those type of workloads get offloaded to that neural processing unit, where it frees up the horsepower on the P cores and E cores in like modern CPUs. Is that kind of along the same lines?
It is. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Gotcha. Interesting.
The same way that GPUs take care of the game rendering for games, this would take care of in many applications would take care of all the small AI applications. For example, upscaling. There's a lot of cases, but all those sort of situations.
Yeah, AI vision comes to mind too. So it does its processing of locating or doing the visional piece of it.
That has to happen locally, because if it has to be sent off to a data center, for example, if you're doing for driverless cars, it has to happen on board, and that's why you have as either a very big GPU if you're using a very big model, or you have something simpler on at least at the start of the processing, and that's where this chip would really shine, because it outperforms a lot of all of the competition in that scenario.
Yeah, zero latency when it's on board.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And what's exciting about that too, just as the Scrypt mining, is we're doing this on a 12 nanometer node. And that's huge, because we can pay the capex to take that design down to a 7 nanometer or 5 nanometer, and we're just going to destroy it, because that only takes, for that turnaround to happen, that's a 9-month turnaround to hand over the design, tape out, and go. After this chip is showing work and everything, we can go ahead and start that process immediately.
Yeah.
So, and especially for AI, I mean, I believe the board would want to go ahead and attack that if like once we get the feedback back from testing it. So
yeah, so you're showing this much efficiency on a 3 times larger die than the L9? That's what, a 5 nanometer or 4?
If it's on 4, yes. But it's not confirmed what node they're in. We know it's lower than 7, but we don't know exactly what node they're in.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, that's still, ridiculously impressive that you're getting this much more performance on something that they were dealing with several years ago, as far as the footprint, right? Okay.
And then that leading from that conversation into why we were delayed and why we put physical security in the chip, you'd understand why we're doing that, seeing that we want to protect this design as we go forward.
Yeah.
We didn't spend all this money for somebody to come in and try to take it. So
yeah, but I asked you when we were in DC, I was like, aren't you afraid that Bitmain's going to take this and like reverse engineer it the day you release it, or something like that? And it'll be cheaper to buy the company than it would be to reverse engineer this. Yeah. Now you got a good point there. So back to your double barrel and single barrel. These are proprietary designs, right? So they're not just full of Hashblades.
No, they're a separate board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
There's the Hashblade design, which is one that retrofits GPUs, and then there's single blade and double blade. They use a slightly different form factor also within the cars that are inside, just because you have different spaces that you got to occupy. So you get a lot better cooling and a lot better performance, even if you change a little bit how you structure it inside. And also the whole thing around it is not really like the same thing as we had for the full stack, which is a GPU mining rig. It's a fully designed system. I don't know if you've seen the renders, but we have a PSU that you can remove. So it allows you to switch it for an equivalent PSU that you can buy in aftermarkets for server farms, and that will bring down a lot of the downtime that people experience when their PSU is down, and you're like, oh, what's going on? Well, on this ones, we're expecting also to have warnings on them before they go bad, and you can just switch them out before they go bad.
Gotcha. Yeah, and these are.
Well, in addition to that, we've had internal conversations about when we actually ship these, to where a lot of people, depending on where you're at in the world, you can have issues with the delivering power to the actual system, or with your own infrastructure. But we're actually even looking into just sending an adapter to where it'll work no matter where you're at in the world. So just make it easier. Instead, people are lazy. People want stuff just to work as soon as it comes out of the box, and that's kind of what we're really pushing to do, is to make it user friendly enough to where grandma can hook it up and get started.
Yeah, easy button. That's what these miners need.
Well, that's another benefit. We've already released the API documents for our miner. People can start building on that immediately. We're using a USB open protocol, for the
Mhm.
communication, which is a huge benefit going forward as well, because you can plug it into anything.
So essentially,
Especially like we're not, each system, each blade is kind of its own ecosystem. I mean, each one will function as alone if need be. And the way that we're daisy chaining them together, I mean, Ruben, would you like to go into that and talk
Sure.
about it? It's more of a hub chaining than
Yeah.
anything.
okay.
So the way we work is the blades will have on the single tube and double tube, you have a master slave configuration where the controller is only talking to a few of them and the other ones talk between each other.
Hmm.
And what you have is they're not set as master slave on the factory. They're set master slave also by the user if you want it. So for example, if say your master goes down, that would be an issue. I mean, it's not that the communication would stop, because that you would have to lose not only the chips but also the controller within all of the hash blades for it to fully go down. But even
Hmm.
if you did, you can just take it out, promote another one as your master, just change the cable, and you're good to go. You're already hashing again, and that blade can be then sent back, or you can switch it for another one, and that allows you to keep mining. So you don't have that lockup for when you have an L7 that's missing a hashboard, that you need to do some firmware changes. Everything has happened on the fly dynamically, so that even if one hash blade is out of the machine, when I'm saying hash blade, I mean single and double tube hash blades. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I wanna confuse them.
I
And
gotcha.
one of them goes down, you don't miss out on the other profitability the other ones would give you. It just reduced by that amount of computing power of equivalent of one of the blades, and then everything goes as normal, and you can then switch it back in or whenever you want.
Okay. Are you going to have capabilities of integrating with Hive OS for your Hashblade or your single double barrels?
So directly for the full stack. So the way we wanted this to work is for it to run on old mining rigs for GPUs. So we're gonna have direct integration with Hive OS and all the other systems that allow you to import your own executable for mining. So you could have BG miner instead
Hmm.
of this, because you will have local miner, and that one thing it will consider the hash blades as GPUs, allow you to mine directly. So
Hmm.
it gives that flexibility for the full stack. And then, so that already works for Hive OS. We'll have a similar Hive OS ecosystem with the single tube and double tube. We'll work with them for them to integrate everything that we have on their firmware. Because like we said, everything's open protocol. So say a user comes in and they want to change how everything looks, like you will be able to do that. And you'll have that flexibility to be able to design your own system around it. That's why we started selling the individual hash blades, because we thought, well, if someone wants to design their own mining single tube and double tube that fits a specific data center, they can do that. Like we're
Mhm.
not gonna try and lock them into our form factor or our own system. That's why we sell the individual blades. We don't do it right now for the individual chips, just because it doesn't make this much sense to white label it in that aspect. But it makes sense for this the blades to be inside of other products.
And what are the power consumptions of the single and double units?
Ben, do you have the latest ones?
Yeah, it's 1,750, and then it's basically the single barrel is half that with a like extra 25 watt for the controller.
And as far as like the physical footprint, I guess what I'm getting at is, will we be able to essentially slap this into existing holes where, like Terra Hosting, they've got, facilities that are full of Bitmain ASICs and AlphaPex and all that stuff. If somebody wants to take their L9 out and put one of these in place, it just plugs in, right? So it works on, the 240 volt, it works, or 277 or whatever it is. But as far as like the physical footprint as well, is this essentially a bolt-in replacement?
I think it's very important just to understand, like the reason why we did the single and double tube is because we really want to give a solution for the customers that are more enterprise that looks like an L7, an L9, an S21. So it looks like the same structure. It will be better looking, but it will still be the same form factor, the experience that they have. So
Okay.
we're using the same fans. So for example, you have duck holes, you're able to use them as well, or with minimal modifications. Like it's going to be very, very similar. Instead of having the PSU on the side, we have it at the bottom, allowing you to pack them more tightly, and you don't have wasted space, and allows you to move air more efficiently if you're using just one wall, so one wall separation. So we did some thought onto it. It's essentially as tall, if not just a little bit taller and a little bit thinner than L9. So we're talking the same space footprint almost. So
Okay.
it's not like we're going to be exactly like an L9, but it's going to be very, very similar, so that you can have the same experience and have the same retrofitted into your own or your old cooling solutions that you had, where they're not going to be longer, so they'll still fit on immersion cooling cabinets. So it's going to be also used. They can be used in the fog mining containers, all the other systems. So it gives that same experience that all the other people are doing, just with a better product, in my opinion. And the reason why we did it, releasing it as a secondary batch, secondary product, secondary environment, is just to make that distinction, because you can have the enterprise, which is the single and double tube, and then you have your more home miners, which are the Hashblade and the full stack or rack stack, which those are also a bit more enterprisey, but without having to have like the loud fans and loud systems.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that bought into the Hashblades were, I mean, they're all old GPU miners. I mean, they all they just had empty rigs sitting around, and they just want to fill them.
Yeah, I've got 4 of them sitting here, not doing anything. Just the risers attached and everything. Just no GPUs on them, motherboards, everything. I could just slap cards in it right now and get them mining. But
do you jump on is that the Octaminers?
I got a couple Octaminers, and then most of them are open airframes. Like it was great in Georgia because like it was super hot, so they were able to cool off a lot easier. And I don't know, at that time the Octaminers were not cheap either.
Also, one thing that I think is very important is that one thing we saw very, very, very strongly with all of the customers is that they wanted a design that was closer to what they had experienced so far. So, and they were asking us, why didn't you pursue a more single tube, double tube design? And we're like, yeah, that's in the roadmap. So we didn't want to push it too hard, just because we thought the individuality of the hash rate was important for home miners. But it's a good product and it's necessary for farms. So that's why we brought it as a secondary timing for this release.
So is there an MOQ or minimum order quantity for the single and doubles? One. So I can buy as little as one.
Yep. And your reservation?
And we're only taking 10% down because we don't want to take people's money during a bull market. I mean, we all see crypto rising. There's no reason for this to sit in a bank account and earn interest. So we're taking 10%, which is meaningful enough. And then 14 days before we do the wafer order, we will call upon and we'll give a fair warning beforehand, so it doesn't catch somebody off guard. But this way they can pay the second payment, and that's it. So. And
do you take payments in fiat or crypto or both, or?
Yeah, we do wire, Litecoin, and Bitcoin. And any crypto payments, we go ahead and realize to cash, because we're not going to take the FX risk on it.
Gotcha. So you're going to take it and convert it. Yeah, got it. So you're going to take the crypto immediately, convert it, so that quantity and that value is locked, right?
Yeah, and it goes and sits in the pre-order account for single and double barrel,
like an escrow, basically.
Oh, it's not escrow because we want you to earn interest on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Escrows are crazy expensive. I mean, they're like $5,000 a pop anytime you want to do it with a client. But I mean, with larger orders, I mean, if somebody wants to sit in escrow, they can sit in escrow. We don't really care.
Okay.
So that's up to them.
Yeah, that makes sense. So
for individual, then financially, it doesn't make sense at all unless they want to pay it. But then it's not worth it. So
yeah, no, that makes sense. And we talked about this a little bit before, and I think I saw a tweet from you guys putting it out there that and I mean, it's the bull run. They're everywhere. There's a scam site or a couple of scam sites out there that have taken your name and put it on another domain. So what's your legitimate site where pre-orders can be made?
Lokotech.com.
That's it. Lokotech.com.
We own a few other domains, but you can't buy them all.
They all redirect.
We actually check one thing scammers are good at is advertising. So we kind of stay up to date on anybody in the SEO. You can find them pretty easily when you're check. I mean, they did a pretty good job. I mean, this was based out of Japan. Well, I don't know where they're based out of, but it was based out of Japan. And but they were number 4. You looked up our company; they were number 4 in the in Google search. So we wanted to operate on that quite quickly because they're open in 6 days, and I don't want anybody to have a bad experience, with our name, fraudulently being used.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we'll continue to do that. If anything pops up, we'll shoot it down pretty quick. So
okay,
or try to at least.
So
the bad problem, it's like whack-a-mole. You get one, you got another 20 that pop up.
3 more pop up. Yeah.
It's a Hydra. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good at that. So I want to ask a couple of questions about your pool. So Lokotech bought into an already existing mining pool and bought a big equity share of it. Why did you go that route instead of standing one up from scratch?
Well, we already built a pool from scratch, and we're still going to be using that. But we also saw the advantage of when we first met with Ruben, when we were looking for potential clients back in the day, and we started discussions. We knew that he was a brilliant guy. We tested his pool out. We liked the pool, and we actually wanted to test how good he was at software development and everything. So he was actually one of the guys that we reached out to because we'd be able to run the demo unit in his pool as well. He did a fantastic job with our lead tech designer, Arva. And that demo unit, you guys got up and running in like 4 days. And it has not stopped mining. It's, it was a phenomenal job. And those are the same demo units that you guys, were able to take home. And it's still running. The one in our shop is still running to this day with no issues. I guess as long as the power, is up, it's good to go. But we haven't had any downtime, and it's been hashing away. So, but that, that kind of really got it kicking off to not only would we be buying a pool, but we'd be bringing in a solid asset for where we're going and where we, especially for the efficiency of this ASIC we're bringing, that he would add in a lot of value to our company. So
Gotcha.
It was kind of an upsell to him, and we liked his client base. We liked how he did it organically, and it continues to grow organically. Being the most profitable pool in the industry, coming up with extremely creative solutions to, start getting bigger people online over this coming next year. And that, I don't know, Ruben probably wouldn't want to talk about that. It's kind of a secret.
Not yet.
It's definitely a good secret. Not yet. If you want to tell them about PowerPool.
Sure. Well, PowerPool started as a small project. It originally was an optimization for mining. I thought of a few ways mining could be more effective, more efficient, so high profitability. And I initially designed it just for something for myself, just for learning a bit of it. And then I made a small publication on Reddit. I thought, well, I'm gonna try and open up to the public. I did like a beta with a few people, and they loved it. A lot of people called me a scam at first. I think that's pretty common in the industry.
Yeah.
So people say, "Oh, it's a rug pool." I'm like, what? Like, what is this? Like, what? I'm not gonna pay out users. Is that what you mean? So then, what the first objective was to lower the threshold for payments to a few cents, so people would not even have to struggle for until they get to a nice threshold for them to be paid out. So I said, all right, it's a 6-cent threshold. Give it a try. Worst case, you lose 6 cents, and people started joining up, and the user retention is phenomenal just because people love it. The first people that started mining organically, like just people that joined out of the Reddit post, are still mining, and people keep piling on. So it's a nice industry to be in, and it's just great. The objective was always to optimize profitability, and we're still up there. Top 1 always, top 2 at some points, but it's not like on averages. If you never switch pools, you're always going to be better at just mining with us, just because we're more effective than the rest. Even compared to hash rate resellers and stuff like that. So it's just a better solution for long-term mining. And then Lokotech reached out just to get me to help them out on connecting the machine unit, the ASIC towards the pool. So there was so what you have to chip, you have to tell what the chip what to do. So that's what I worked on, telling the chip what to hash and then getting the hashes out to the pool. And that's the very robust system that we designed, that it's mining till this day with no issues. So it's good that at least the firmware we know will work super nice, and the chip was completely de-risking tech, so we'll know it will work amazingly. And then pools it's always everything's compatible, so we will have no issues there as well. So it just gives a lot of solidity to the whole system as a whole, from A, which is the silicon, to Z, which is directly the pool if it's mining on PowerPool, or to X if you're mining to somewhere else, and that the last step is the other pools. But it just it gives us a lot of solid foundation for it.
So PowerPool is going to be where you do your self mining at then too, right?
Well, it'll be both. I mean, we'll have other pools.
Sure.
So we'll have two pools, because I mean, you have a lot of coins on the on the algorithm, but I mean, PowerPool is definitely going to be one that we're going to be pushing significantly. So,
and the objective is to keep everything transparent. So even within PowerPool, there's going to be a Lokotech section to know what hash rate is on the network. Just because it'll be great to have the transparency, because at the end of the day, it's a company that wants to show promise and trust to users. So the objective is to be as transparent as possible also in that regard.
Yeah, for sure.
And that goes back to something I mentioned in the past, to where, I mean, every Hashblade that we have in our quality control self-mining facility, everybody will know how many units we're hashing with. I mean, we're a public company. I mean, our shareholders, they'll know, the customer will know, the industry analysts will know. We're very transparent on how we're operating. So
good deal. Yeah, that's good to see. And you don't see that. I mean, we've all been in this industry long enough. I mean, if you're in here for 10 minutes, you kind of realize, who the 800-pound gorillas are and how they operate. And it's like every time a new, OEM comes out, like Ice River comes out, they're just like Bitmain. In fact, they probably are Bitmain, but that's a different story, and a lot of, well, maybe AlphaPex. I've met Payne at Mining Disrupt. Yeah. He seemed like a pretty genuine guy, super nice guy.
I like Payne.
Yeah, he is. He's good.
They're very real. I like them as well. I was heartbroken when Bitmain came in with the L9 by surprise after they released, like they finally released everything, and I was really rooting for them with them and us be able to take on Bitmain, but Bitmain really pulled a nice one on them and got them a bit. But it's all right. I mean, they're still a significant player, and they're good people. So it's I hope goodness also prevails.
For sure.
Over not just efficiency, which is very important, but also a company that's transparent and has good quality, good customers. It's also very important, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, you don't see that often. So it's good to see, and the space is big enough that, you can have multiple companies all, competing for the same customers, and everybody's kind of on the same page there, right?
Well, and that's, with the competition, the best thing about this industry, there's no warehouse risk. Just plug it in.
Yeah. So I just have a couple more questions. So you're making mining machines, you're running a mining pool, you're focusing on AI in the future. What else does Lokotech do or planning on doing in the future?
Well, I mean, there's not too much stuff. I mean, we have the AI, we have the Scrypt mining, which will be self-mining and selling. We have an encryption decryption app that's going to be updated here in the next month. That's awesome. It's completely isolated. It's kind of a solution for any actor, from like Telegram founder getting jailed, and they're wanting to see every message. Well, this is going to allow people to encrypt, whether it's a text, video, picture, audio, or any file that you want. Literally send it across whatever platform that you want, and then have the other person, as long as they know the passphrase or the passphrase and the iterations, they can open it. That's going to be very exciting, and it's extremely slick. We got to run through it this last week, and we'll be getting that out to the market soon. We also have probably the #1 Filecoin architecture in the world. The economics behind Filecoin is subpar right now, just because the pricing behind Filecoin is what really, drives that scaling. But I mean, Ruben could jump quite deep into that, because I know that his helped out with when we brought him on with what we already had, and them having a bunch of updates. We're just bringing our architecture up to date and continuing with them. And then
But with all
we have
those
a bunch of
verticals,
locations for. Say
yeah,
what?
we also have the locations for having our setups as well, when we'll have the self mining as well as data centers that we're starting to spin up for other purposes as well, like Filecoin in this situation. And but we have enough verticals, I think, to keep our hands occupied at this point. But it's we're always looking for new endeavors. It's an industry where things pop up, and it's good to pursue them when you have the proper resources and the team that is very talented. So it's good that we're able to attack these different edges around the crypto industry. For example, making Falcon more efficient, making mining more efficient, all these different things. So it's great where we're at, and I think we really have a lot of things in our plate and getting this to the customers. But it's good, because I think everything is exciting in crypto, in my opinion. There's not really a bland topic that is like doesn't really make sense. So it's good that we were able to challenge the industry and be there.
I agree. Crypto is a pretty exciting space to be in pretty much all the time. Even in the bear market, that's when all the building happens and you see all of these new projects and companies and technologies coming out. And then some of them are, BS, and some of them actually seem to take off or even have just kind of steady path. And then, of course, the bull run, everything goes up. Everybody's happy because everything's green. And then bear market again, and everybody's back to building. So it's a pretty cool cycle to see. And I'm glad that you guys are coming out with new products, and you're not just another A, fly by night organization, or B, another Bitmain. So thank you guys for the time today. I did have one last question. Let me see if I can share my screen here. This one. Okay. What's up with the commercial? I got to ask. So I'll play it real quick. I think the audio will come through. I'll just play this real quick because it's like 30 seconds long.
The way I read it is the world can be going very badly, but you'll have your crypto that you're self-powered in a way. That's the way I like to read it.
Okay.
But it's I want to say it's different kind of commercial, because it's less crypto related and more real world scenarios. Because what you have is a crypto space sometimes can feel detached from reality, because everything happens behind the screen. But at the end of the day, you're consuming power, you're improving your economic state if you're mining for profit, and all that comes together in real life. Like, it's not something that happens in the virtual space. Something happens in your bank accounts or in your day-to-day life operations. If you're buying apples with your crypto, or you're doing whatever with it, it brings it into real life. So I think that's it's important here, because it's not only something that happens in the screen; it's something that happens in real life.
And I can agree with that 100%. I mean, to me, it's just self-reliance. You don't need anybody else to rely on. I mean, whether through the good or the bad. And that's kind of what really describes our miner. We want people to be running through the bear market. We want people to be running through the bull market. And, it's up to everybody's interpretation, but that's kind of what we see it. And especially in the early days in crypto, that's everyone being their own bank. That's what we want to push, and that's what we want to see happen as we increase decentralization for the Scrypt coins.
Cool. Yeah, I wanted to ask that. We kind of bring that up on live stream sometimes. Like, this is such a weird commercial, but it gets playtime and it gets you thinking. Like, what is the meaning behind this, and you can kind of interpret it your own way and stuff. So I like your answers. That's good to know. Well, Ben, Ruben, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your input. And if anybody's interested in checking out the product, go to lokotech.com. That's the correct domain, right? Lokotech.com.
Yep.
With a K. With a K. Not a
K.
not a C.
Lokotech.com. I'll leave links in the description as well.
Perfect. And thanks for having us.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.